Hello, thank you so much for having me here alongside some brilliant minds. Wow, I feel like we definitely got the message that AI is evolving very quickly. And I like to think of myself as a techno-optimist. I don't want to be naively optimistic. But I'm really excited to talk to you about some of the things that are happening in what is truly the fourth industrial revolution. So hello, thanks for having me. And hopefully, I was wondering how many times you might have heard the word AI today. I mean, you probably heard it about 5 times before you even came in the room. So it's really a hot topic. I think there's a lot of hype around it, and sometimes it's difficult to think about the tangibility and how we can actually integrate it into our everyday life. So hopefully that's what I'm going to get into a little bit now. How are we feeling about AI? I know we're at a work conference, but be honest, are you excited? Are you a bit scared? Are you over it? No one's going to say anything. I go into a lot of businesses, I'll tell you a bit more about what I do, but I find it elicits a really strong reaction either way. There's not many people that are kind of nonplussed about it. People are worried it's coming for their job, but they're excited about the capabilities. They feel annoyed that suddenly they have to learn loads of new stuff. So it's really a mixed bag, but whichever end of the spectrum it is, it seems to be a kind of extreme one. And we heard about how fast the AI revolution has happened. It's happening right now, and it's a tidal wave, it's a tsunami, it's not a ripple. I think last year, we were arguing about what AI actually is, what's automation, and whether it was good at making pictures, and now it's kind of happening, it's integrated into all these products that we're using every day. Some we might not even realize that we're using AI. And it's really about, are we going to start surfing the wave? Are we going to get drowned by it? But we're in the era of partnering with systems really now. And I think it's exciting. This is a graph which just shows you really the pace of change. So if you're feeling like on one of those extreme spectrums, you're not alone. Moore's law told us that technology should double every 2 years. And over the past 10 years, we've advanced AI by about 1 million times. We've never, ever had a technology that learns this fast in public. It's like we are flying a plane, but we're updating the engine as we're in midair. It's the first time ever that we've had technology that the people who are making it don't even really know for sure its capabilities. And I just wanted to put it in perspective with this air travel analogy. If air travel had improved at the same rate as large language models, it would now take just 19 seconds to get from London to New York. So if you're feeling like you're still catching up on something that happened before, you're really not alone. And I think I'll talk to you about it later, about what a fundamental culture shift this is, not only for our business, but also for our ego and the way that we show up at work. And I think not being afraid to ask questions and admit if you are feeling a bit overwhelmed is going to be key. So, you've heard it already once today. We truly are in the fourth industrial revolution, evolving at a pace we've never seen before. We had the printing press, it revolutionized how we consume media. Then we had the iPhone. It was actually more powerful than the first computer that sent astronauts to space, and we kind of just got used to carrying that around in our pocket. And then we had AI, like nothing that has come before it. But there is respite. There's lots of ways that it might not be coming for your job. It's kind of, for a while it had a mirage-like quality and people weren't sure. And now, we heard just now about the real concrete ways that it's getting implemented into all sorts of workflows. And I said last year, AI might not be coming for your job, but somebody who knows how to use it might be. And actually, I think I've changed my mind about that. I think AI might not be coming for your job, but your skills are going to be used in a different way. I had a great analogy last week about accountants. So before Excel, they had to be really, really good at arithmetic. And then Excel came along, and accountants didn't just disappear. They were still employed for their judgment, which is a particularly human skill. So I think we're really seeing a shift in the way skills are being used in business. I used to joke last year that AI is like teenage sex. Wait for it. Because everybody thinks everybody else is doing it. But this year, I think we're really trying to pin the tail on the donkey, and the donkey keeps moving. And that's how I find a lot of the things that I work on. We might be using one kind of software, and then suddenly the software capabilities change. But I really want to drive home for all of you, it's not necessarily the idea of understanding how to use AI, it's really understanding how to ask better questions and really getting clear on your workflows and the understandings that you already have from the job that you've been in for so long. And I passionately believe in humans in the loop. There's an analogy that I like to use of when instant cake mix was invented. It didn't sell very well. And then when they decided to add an egg to the mix and people felt like they were cooking, it started flying off the shelves. And I think it's so exciting. We heard about the AI implementation over there with the pricing, and the negotiation. I would love to know about the prompting behind that. But people at work, we don't want AI to do everything for us necessarily. And I think when we're designing systems within our businesses, it's really important to keep a human in the loop. Like, I could have an AI pay my invoices for me, but I don't want to. I could have an AI post on social media for me, but I want to be making sure I'm checking it. And I think, yes, it's very exciting. Yes, it's moving faster than it ever has. But not only for our, raison d'etre of human beings and feeling like we're needed. But I think when we're designing systems, particularly how fast they're evolving and in the age of hallucinations, we need to just design them to keep the humans involved at every stage. The dream is that AI automates the boring bits and leaves more room for that human judgment that I was talking about that accountants have, for that creativity, for that strategy. So hi, that was a lot of information. Who am I to be banging on about this? I've worked in AI since 2016, so way before ChatGPT came along. And I really come from a creative background. I've worked on the personality of robots, so human-machine interaction. You might remember the Google Smart Speakers. Did any of you have any of those? If you've ever wondered who wrote the answers to how are you a feminist, do you like the Spice Girls, that was me. I worked at Microsoft before that, at Cortana. It was one of the very first AI personal assistants. And that was really the beginning of AI-human relationships. I'd be going into the code, we didn't even have a content management system, and thinking about why people spoke to machines and what they wanted from them. Most recently, I worked at Meta, and my job has evolved as the technology has. I think I was a creative writer, then I was a conversation designer, and then I was a prompt engineer. So rather than just writing the answers, and yes, sure, like using data to inform conversation, I was really creating prompts to make whole characters. I specialized in coaches that kind of help you do stuff, and I know we're all talking to ChatGPT about all kinds of things, aren't we, from calorie trackers to love advice, and that was really my speciality. Just designing prompts to get these coach characters to do what I wanted them to. And thinking about what people wanted from their machines. At Google, I was a specialist in the British personality, so I had to really fight for sarcasm and use data to prove that it wasn't rude to the Americans, and it was actually really important to our culture. But really, it's because we love to put a human touch into machines. It's the same reason that we anthropomorphize a plug, like I showed you, that we look for a smiley face. And it has a reason. It's in our evolutionary interest to notice if another being is sentient or not. If something's going to be a threat to us and our family. And it's the same reason why the data proves that people prefer machines that have personality, and the same reason that I've been employed for almost 10 years in AI. So now I have a consultancy. I left Meta about 6 months ago now, and I help businesses integrate AI into their workflows. I talk about AI a lot. As I mentioned, I'm from a creative background, so I have had some engineering experience, and I know some basic code. Do you even need to in the age of vibe coding? I don't know. But yes, I'm really passionate about getting people from all industries into AI, particularly the creative backgrounds, and particularly women. If we're talking about the fourth industrial revolution, it's going to be for everyone, isn't it? I have a podcast where I make new products every single week using AI, and I'm launching my own very soon. But mostly, I talk to people about the best way to talk to machines. So what does AI literacy mean? You might have heard this phrase before. It's not learning to code. It's not like you suddenly have to get better at using AI. Really, it's about learning to ask better questions, to test outputs, and knowing, crucially, when not to trust it. I think, we're already using AIs in so many ways that we know and so many ways that we actually don't, that I think it's about building workflows that serve you in your personal and professional life. And it's also about celebrating people in your business that do that. I often say when I go into businesses, there's probably someone in your business that's using AI already, but they don't want to tell you because they feel like it's cheating. I don't know how many of you feel like that? Yeah. But it's about sort of changing the culture and rewarding people that are doing that. And that's how AI literacy becomes company culture. And I think those people that feel like they're cheating or they're skiving are the curious ones and, should be really praised. So it's about using words as tools. We're all becoming very used to talking to machines, aren't we? Each industrial revolution kind of has its own interface, and ours right now is the large language model. And it feels like it talks in a human way, and it does. Especially, I'm making lots of products, which I'll tell you about in a minute, as a non-engineer, and I'm explaining it in a very human way. But you've probably heard the phrase prompt engineering, and we're getting into the era now of using words as tools. And I think, that's my background as a writer, and I think that's why things are taking off so much right now. We're using words as keys to unlock the door. And how you speak to the machine is arguably the most important skill to cultivate. So I'm just going to do a quick overview because I teach whole workshops and afternoons on this. But you could say prompting is the new code. But really it's just a fancy way of saying you're really good at talking to ChatGPT. And it's about being as clear as possible. Sometimes I joke that British people are inherently bad at prompt engineering because we love to use loads of extra words. Like, if you wouldn't mind maybe possibly doing that little thing for me, that would be lovely, thank you. But we have to get really clear and really concise and think about what doors the words that we use as keys are going to open. So just really simple overview for this is context, task, and format. So context would be, how do you want to approach this? What exactly are you doing? Task might be, what exactly do you want the AI to do? You could use words here like summarize, explain. And the format, how do you want it delivered? I'm sure we've all spoken to machines and received whole swathes in response, and you're just like, whoa. So one example might be, you're a friendly is key because that's actually a personality signal, UX writer at Travel App, that's the context. Rewrite this error message to sound more human, that's the task. Keep it under 20 words. That's so much better than saying, can you rewrite this error message for me and uploading a screenshot. We've all probably seen the data about how AI is going to make us more lazy. I think in some ways that's true, and we're seeing that across universities and things, but it's going to make the people who use it in a lazy way lazier. If you're using it kind of strategically and thinking critically about it, I think it's a really powerful tool to speed up I kind of hate that word productivity. Let's call it output or contribution. Oh, a really great prompt actually, which I often use is if you're using the machine and you're getting frustrated with it, as we all do, right? And we've come to rely on it so quickly in a way. When I was at Meta, we did this study on Gen Zs about, we looked at the capability of some sci-fi films, and then we looked at the capabilities of AI that we have, and we were trying to match up which ones we could make. And we surveyed these Gen Zs, and they were so not bothered about these technologies because they just thought it was normal because they've grown up watching sci-fi. But for people who are a bit older, it's moved very, very quickly. But even us, we're so used to just talking to it basically like a human. But yeah, if we're talking to it and we're getting annoyed, it's actually a really human prompt. Just say to it, take a breather. It seems kind of weird, but it really, really works. A couple more prompting tips are cast AI in the right role. I just mentioned it there. You are a UX writer at a travel app. It might be, I made one for nutrition the other day, and I said, you're an award-winning, Nobel Prize-winning nutritionist. Don't accept the first answer. I think that's key. Sometimes, we think the machines know more than us, but we have to really get confident in our own skills and abilities. And if it's not right, tell it. Because I was comparing AI the other day to sort of like a puppy dog that just wants to please us. And really, it's just making educated guesses. I know we've come so far in the generative AI world now. Some people are embarrassed to admit they're not exactly sure how the technology is working, but really we give it the data and it uses that data to teach itself. And it's just making educated guesses. It feels like it knows. Maybe in AGI in a few years, maybe it will, but it's only as smart as what we give it. And kind of going back and forth really as a brainstorming partner is where you're going to get that real richness and value. And help it learn your style. I'm sure we've all got sent emails with the super long hyphens. We just know someone's been super lazy about it. But giving it as much of your tone of voice in your writing as possible so that you can train it is really, really handy, because then you're giving it way more data. Oh, that was a lot of talking for one slide, wasn't it? Critical thinking. So I get asked all the time what the most important skill is to cultivate in the age of AI. Last year, I said it was taste. Sure, taste is really important. If AI can generate 1 million ideas a second, it's going to be on us to decide which idea we want to spend 1 million seconds on. But now, I think it's actually thinking critically. I said that AI is just trying to please us, so we need to really think about what we're trying to deliver, because otherwise we can really go off-piste, whether you're brainstorming or writing some copy. And in the age of hallucinations, this is crucial. And I actually think, if AI is going to reimagine every single industry, and I always listen to a podcast about how hospitals are going to be redesigned around AI, and it's comparable to electricity, I think this is the number one skill that we should be teaching at schools, how to cultivate critical thinking rather than just how to remember stuff. But that's another presentation. Intellectual humility, I think, is going to be key. I mentioned the culture shift we're seeing at work. It's really an openness to be wrong about stuff. So I make things with AI most days. I have a podcast where I make products every single week to help me with my personal and professional life. And I might make something on a vibe coding platform, forget about it, and then I'll go back 3 weeks later, and the capabilities have totally changed, and it's really frustrating and annoying. And I think it's not how we do business generally is make our mind up about something and then publicly own that we've changed it. But I think it's going to be key. And I think if you want to win in the age of AI, you're going to have to cultivate an intellectual humility. And that is like researching, being curious, carving the time to learn a new product, making your mind up about something, perhaps telling your team, this is what you think, and then a month later saying, you know what, I think I've changed my mind. Or I've seen a new way that we can do this. And it's difficult. It's difficult for the ego, and it's not how we're used to doing business. I love this idea of a cognitive prosthetic. I learned about this at MIT a few weeks ago. The idea of using AI to fill our own blank spots, to really fill in the gaps of the things that we're not good at. I mean, rather than using it to replace us, using it to enhance us. And it also totally shifts the idea of the scarcity mindset that AI is coming for our job, if you think about it as something that's coming to improve our capabilities. But to be able to use AI effectively as a cognitive prosthetic, we need to get really clear about what we're not good at, which again is hard, and we need to admit that in a business situation. It means kind of taking a long look in the mirror. I've just left the corporate world recently, and I'm on this kind of entrepreneurial journey, and I'm thinking about implementing AI in the same way you would in a business. Hiring someone to do something that you're not good at. I think that's how we should be putting AI into our workflows. I also like to start with what's the most boring thing that I really don't want to do, because I think your propensity to want to do something might speak to that too. This is a framework my ex-colleague developed. She was a data scientist at Meta, and I just thought it was really good, so I thought I'd share it with you. It's about the skills that you need to cultivate in the age of AI. It's called first is agency and free will. I alluded to that. So it's not blindly accepting what the machine tells you as truth, because remember, it's just trying to impress you and make you happy. The second is creativity and creative problem solving. Turning imagination into fresh solutions that AI alone can't reach. I'm sure we've had a conversation before about something, and somebody says something, and it makes you think of an idea or a solution, and it doesn't necessarily mean that person came up with the idea, but it sort of just pushed it out of you. Complexity and nuance is the second C. Really embracing the grey areas where the real understanding lives, thinking critically. Exploration and experimentation. This is key. And again, it's a new way to do business. Like, we've always upskilled and learnt new things, but the need to get uncomfortable learning new softwares, new products, new ways of doing business is more important than ever. And carving out the time to explore and experiment is super important. Sharing knowledge and collaborating, we mentioned that before. No man or woman is an island. We're only going to build smarter together, and we're seeing some of the great advances in AI, everything from, consumer-facing products to weird experiments down Reddit rabbit holes. They're made from people doing stuff together. So one person might make the first part, and then somebody else builds something on top of it. And you might think some of these skills don't sound very technical, but actually, I go into businesses and I talk to them about how they can implement AI into their workflows. And what I often really find is that it's a mindset shift. So that's why I'm passing it on to you. My core belief is that AI is a mirror. If you remember, I talked about just an overview of how it works. AI is only as good as the data that we give it. And I think that's important to remember when you're getting annoyed with the outputs. It's an opportunity for you to ask yourself, how can I drive this thing better, basically? And it's a fundamental culture shift in businesses. Even myself, I'm an AI consultant, and I find it hard sometimes to time block the time to learn new products. And I think the rewarding of curiosity is also going to be, I think, one of the biggest things that we're going to see in business going forward. Make it okay to tinker. Make it okay for people to try and do things in a new way and learn new stuff. I think the biggest wins we're going to see in AI is in personalization and contextualization. You mentioned the negotiation AI earlier. I guess that's super personal and contextualized to your business. I'm helping a friend of mine who is a florist use AI because the price of flowers change all the time. And so we're looking at making this thing that can help her. She's, an art director of flowers, basically. How she can kind of work within her creative wheelhouse within a budget, because the back end has got her back about knowing how much the price of things are changing and also reducing waste. I saw a talk the other day by the co-founder of Siri that was pushing this too, about how personalization and contextualization are key. And I know in the age of data worries, we don't want to tell the machine too much, but really, if you want the best results, you kind of need to give it data here. I'm quite interested in the personal development in AI space. And if you have written a book that you really think is going to help people, why wouldn't you want to personalize and contextualize it to every single reader? Why wouldn't you want to make some kind of AI companion that would allow a reader to personalize and contextualize your research to their exact situations? I often talk about AI as talking to a library, and I think that really is the era that we're in. And that just shifted things a bit for me in terms of thinking about it. So, where to start? It's a lot of theory, a lot of kind of lofty ideas, if you will, a lot of thinking. What does that actually mean for your everyday? I would say pick one pain point, because if you try to get AI to do everything for you, you're going to get in a mess real quick. So really think about one pain point that you're feeling, and you've got to get really clear on the workflow. Because if you don't have a clearly defined workflow, AI is not the solution. And as I say, I always like to start with a task that I hate. So I'm going to talk you through some of my AI experiments, just things that I've been making for fun, in the hope that it will inspire you to think about how you can make some of your own AI products for your teams, for your business, or even for your personal life. So how I use AI to prepare for this talk. This was quite simple. It started as a customized GPT, but I've actually hooked it up with an automation now. And it's just my presentation brain. So I do presentations, and everyone is slightly different. So I made a customized GPT where I uploaded every single presentation that I've ever done slides and notes, and I prompted it so that I upload the transcript of the meeting that I had with the client and say, okay, what in my presentations fits with the brief here, and what am I missing? Stage 1. Stage 2 is I've got an automation running, which is like, what in the AI news have I missed? What kind of updates do you think are outdated by now? And I often say I can't write my presentations until a few days before because AI is moving so quickly. So this has really been a game changer for me. This is a social media agent. It's quite similar, it just doesn't have the automation. I have uploaded all of my social media copy from LinkedIn, from Instagram, into this kind of knowledge base, if you will. And when I think about posting something, or sometimes I might even upload the transcript of a video, or kind of just think about the vibe that I want, I'll go to it for that initial brainstorming. I personally don't like to upload it word for word, and I think we're getting quite used to seeing that. And I actually like when I see social media that has a bit something wrong in it, or the spelling's a bit not quite right, or it's the tone of voice of the person. But it's just, I'm doing 100 jobs at once, and it's really helped me. I think one thing that I often say to businesses for you is I find people get really a lot of value from training something in their tone of voice. It really saves them a lot of time. And also thinking about how you can combine this with maybe you could get an AI to go and search trending topics in your industry, use that as the data along with the tone of voice that you've already uploaded into it, and then get it to generate some LinkedIn posts or something. So, and it gets quite creative and fun when you think about it in this way, This is Glance, Georgia Lewis Anderson's news condensing engine. It's actually quite a messy N8N agent workflow, which is why I just put a picture there. Even as an AI consultant, I sometimes feel like I don't have enough time to read the newsletters about AI. So I get AI to do it for me. And I've uploaded all my favorite AI newsletters, and then I did some kind of prompting about the stories that I want. So I like the human interest, real-world examples rather than updates about chips, for example. So that's been really handy. Just even that part of the workflow is really handy. It just summarizes, so I don't have to open 5 newsletters a day. And then the second part is I've got it to summarize some of those trends in my tone of voice. So it could write me a script in that tone of voice about the week's AI news. Cool. And then the final part is I send it, which I'm working on now, is I send it to my AI avatar, and I get someone that's not even me, but who's trained on all my mannerisms, my tone of voice, the way that I move, to talk about what's happened in the news and then post directly on Instagram. So that means that I don't even need to stop and film a video. I can go straight there. Now, I mentioned human in the loop, and I think that's really important right now at every touch point, but actually it's only getting better. I mentioned vibe coding. Are many of you familiar with vibe coding? It really just means making products by talking in the same way that you would to a large language model. And it's so much easier than you think, and essentially you can make whole web apps. So my favorite site that I like to do this on is Replit. This is super simple. It's called affirmation capture. So talking at events like these sometimes is scary, and I get a bit nervous. And look, I'm a woman in a man's world talking about artificial intelligence, which is moving quicker than any technology we've ever seen. And I really think anybody who says they know everything about artificial intelligence is lying, point blank, because it changes all the time. And I thought, how can I use AI to help me with my confidence here? So I made an app. It's called Affirmation Capture. It's got all the kind of memory of what I do and what I've been up to. And I say, oh, I'm doing this talk today in Birmingham, and I'm a bit scared about it, and it will generate an affirmation based on what I'm up to. So it say, you've worked at Microsoft, Google, and Meta, you're fine. That's cool, that's fine. The second part of it is I've linked it up to my voice clone using an API called 11 Labs. It's really the greatest voice cloning capability, and they're British, actually. So I not only get the affirmation that's personalized to me with the knowledge prompted in my writing style, because I don't like it when it feels too cheesy and too much like ChatGPT's written it. And then I can hear it in my own tone of voice. And it's even though I know it's fake, it's really powerful. So those are some of the things that I've been experimenting with. And I wanted to give you this as an example of not only an easy vibe coding product that you can make, but combining 2 different APIs. So that means plugging in the back end of 2 different services that you're using a lot. So in this case, it's ChatGPT and 11 Labs. This is just an app that I made for my friends, and I wanted to use this as an example for maybe an app that you could make just for your teammates. This is called Zen Capture. I feel like we all want to be on our phone less, right? Kind of more lonely than ever in the most connected age we've ever been in. And it's super, super simple. We just upload screenshots of our screen time, and then we input it into this app, and then it just creates a graph. So we compete with each other to see who can have the least screen time every week. And it gets quite competitive in our WhatsApp group. And it's quite fun, and it's quite silly. And yeah, I just hope it inspires you to think about what is it, I don't know, who's brought in the best snacks that week or something, and everybody votes on it? Or like, what's the use case for your team that you could vibe code an app for right now? And it really is that quick once you start doing it. I just wanted to show you an example of video generation. I mentioned I'm quite into personal development, and I've just been using Midjourney with the start frame. So if you upload a picture that you have that you want to turn into a video, it will kind of use that as the basis. And I've just sort of articulated myself achieving my goals. So this is me running my AI empire. Don't worry about it. Screens, technology. Yeah, it's just a silly example, but I wanted to show how realistic it is and think about not only using AI in your business, but also using AI from a personal point of view. This is just a super simple kind of automation that I've made, just daily content agent in a world where you're juggling a lot of tasks, which, by the way, if you're juggling a lot of tasks, you're going to be safer from AI for a while, because messy workflows it doesn't love, as it doesn't love client relationships. So if you're taking people out for dinner all the time, you're pretty safe in your job. But yeah, I just made this thing called Daily Context Agent. And it's just a workflow. It checks my calendar, it checks my to-do list, it checks my notes, and it gives me a kind of roundup in the morning of what the most important things are. The technology behind it is really simple, but actually the personalization and contextualization of it makes it feel really magic and really useful, and it's kind of like an interactive calendar, diary, personal assistant kind of thing. So, the future, what's coming next? Well, I think the thing about AI is there's always going to be something. I don't know if we all saw Sora that just, has the potential to change social media, perhaps, if we want to live in a world of AI slop. But it's very exciting. It's going very, very quickly. We are all fast becoming prompt engineers. We're thinking about what use cases we can integrate it into our businesses for, and it's exciting. We know the future is agentic, and that is AIs that go and act on your behalf. So before, you might ask it for its opinion on something or to do something for you, but these are agents you can set off on little missions, like go and research this, go on this website, book this flight for me. And it's going to get quite exciting. And then after that, we're going to have agents talking to each other, which is a whole other world. And I actually think we're all kind of going to have our own personal AI agent, which is hopefully going to protect us from a sea of marketing. But then marketers are going to have to be designing their adverts to kind of get through the AI security guard. But that's another talk as well. But whatever way you're thinking about implementing AI into your business, or you're wondering what pain points you can solve, it always comes down to intention. This is the fundamentals behind my business. There's no point teaching somebody how to use one AI product, because the products are changing all the time. We see businesses starting and then getting wiped out by the latest update from OpenAI, for example. But if you're clear on the intention of what you're trying to achieve, you can work backwards to find out what the AI solution is here. And the idea of AI being collective human intelligence. So it's not one thing that's coming for our job, but I mentioned the idea of AI as a library. The idea that we could pull all of our knowledge in this room, upload it somewhere, and then pull from it individually, that just really changed things for me and made me feel excited. And I hope that gives you something to think about too. So I'm actually going to take some questions, if you've got anything pressing to ask. But no pressure, by the way. Yeah. It's a really good question. Well, for me, they're pretty low budget, but if you're working in like, some of my friends that work in like AI generated video for advertising, they are spending so much money on the tokens to generate videos. But for me, I think like, what do I have? Gemini, because I think Nano Banana is the best for editing. Midjourney, because I think it's the best for, and each one of these are probably tops 20 quid a month. Then I've got the ChatGPT, and then I've got Replit, 11 Labs. I'm probably looking about 100 quid a month for 5 services. So it's not nothing, but it's not like wild. But yeah, if you're trying to create like TV level ads, then you're going to need some serious computing power for that, you know? You could hear a pin drop. Yeah?
Oh, thank you. You mentioned earlier about using an avatar for social media.
Yeah.
Apologies, I've not seen any of your content, but are you open about the fact it's an avatar, or would someone stumbling across your content not know, and how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm always open because I've like been experimenting making AI avatars for myself for years. So like, 2 summers ago, I would have to upload 100 pictures of myself to get one AI model. And now I can do a video for 3 minutes on a product called HeyGen and get it to kind of talk. But actually, crucially, the voice hasn't been great, so I've been hooking it up to 11 Labs. But now, in the age of Sora, I don't know if you've seen any of that, you can upload your face and then as a character, and then somebody else can put you in all different situations. So I do think we're, in this era of wondering what truth is, and it's an interesting conversation. But for me, I would always say, I'm like experimenting on the internet all the time. So I would always say, and I also think, I had quite a lot of qualms about it when I was at Meta. Like, I think it's really important that people know when they're looking at AI content, because it's not fair, really, if you don't. So. Okay, anything else on your mind? All right then, well, thank you so much for having me, and I hope you have some valuable takeaways.